Let's go for the actual score. Europa natural law.
Greetings, humanity, and welcome to Europa Natural Law, a new roundtable transmission dedicated to healing the madness, badness, and sadness plaguing our beautiful, bountiful world. Through regaining our sanity, reclaiming our inborn sovereignty, and honoring our inherent responsibility, we can improve reality. I'm your host, Nemo Jones, reporting for Beauty, and joining me we have to my that way, right, my right, your left. Let's just go around and introduce ourselves, starting with you, KRIS.
Hi, Chris Nelson from evolveconsciousness.org. Go ahead.
Floor Alamadi from the Netherlands.
Yvonne from the UK in Norfolk.
Anna Maria from Denmark.
Derek Bartolacelli, broadcasting from France. Waking Your Mind, Dissolving the Divide, all that beautiful, good stuff.
Tommy McGann, also from the UK, up here in sunny Scotland.
Great. Well, welcome all of you, and thank you so much for joining me. And we're going to talk about true care. What is true care? But before we get onto that, I'd just like to invite Anna to just give us a little idea of how she came to be interested in this subject and wanting to join us today. Because we've not had you on before, Anna.
My boyfriend is very, very interested in natural law, so it's mostly from talking with him and asking a lot of questions that I think it's becoming, or like I'm getting more curious about it, but I haven't really noted it myself. But I do think about it sometimes, like to see some different laws. Like right now I have biology and chemistry as classes, and to see some different laws in nature and thinking about how it also shows up in the human world. It's kind of funny to have that mindset when studying something, to see how it could also have another form in the human world, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So that's a short answer for that.
Okay, thanks. Well, welcome. Right, so as I said, the topic that we're going to talk about today is what is true care? And obviously with kind of distinguishing true care from care, because care can be quite a sort of, I suppose, has a kind of mundane version of, where it's just about caring for someone in front of you, caring, this sense of compassion, looking out for people, looking after someone who's sick, looking after the needy, those kinds of things. And for me, true care is, in a way, it's the same thing, but on a deep level. It's like you're going well, okay, I'm not just caring for the physical or the sort of obvious things. I'm trying to really look at the root of the problems, or the problem, and care about that. And so my favorite sort of, if there is a definition of true care, my favorite definition is simply wanting to know. So it's wanting to know the truth, wanting to know what I can do, wanting to know what my heart can bring to the situation, how I can best manifest what's needed to heal this world. That's a sort of little introduction of my sense of what true care is about. And let's open up the discussion. So whoever wants to jump in.
I can go and get my infographics analysis done. So just for the word true care, So as you see in the word in the statement or the phrase true care, it's not just care, it's true care. So obviously the I guess the higher component of that, you can relate it to care for truth, because it's about what is true, just as Nemo was saying. And the opposite of care, so you can look at care in terms of a spectrum or degrees, a scale, just like pretty much everything else we can look at. So on one polarity is care, and then at the other end you have the opposite, which would be apathy. And apathy is where you don't care. So people in the world, they care about many things, and care can also be likened to desire. So what do you desire to do? What do you care to do? What do you want to do? And these are our motivations. So that's at the core of what stimulates our behavior, is what we care enough to put our time into, to spend time on, and also to pay attention to. And so that relates to information and to truth and the desire to seek out truth. So that care will bring you to manifest certain things, to generate certain behavior and get certain results in your life. And everyone does that same thing and amplifies that to get the world we have collectively and aggregately. By all our behaviors together, we've created the human world as it is what it is now. And those who came before us did behaviors, and they created what the world was, and we built on top of it. And so when you care for truth, you seek truth and you gain knowledge. And then so you doubt, you have questions, you're curious, you have curiosity. And with that knowledge and seeking of truth, you can develop an understanding, a greater understanding of what's happening in the world, in the outer reality, and what's happening inside of you in your internal reality. So that's where we get into the concept of know thyself. And when we arrive at an understanding, part of understanding phase is to embrace and accept truth. So there are truths that are pretty and some are ugly. Some truths are beautiful and some truths are horrific. So we have to learn to face reality and the truth in both its beauty and its horror and its light and dark, and be willing to accept it as it currently is. Not that the horror or the dark needs to be that way, but that it currently is that way. And then we can move forward through our imagination to envision higher potentials of the way things should be, the path and the way that we should live. So that relates to symbolism with Jesus. So the path and the way, the light, the truth, morality. So what should be, and when you understand what should be, you're also caring about becoming that. So your current state of being as a version of yourself now, where you can realize that you can become a higher version of yourself, a better version, a truer version, a more real version relative to the truth that you can embody. So that's where you have to embody and be the truth, not literally, but you bring it into you and you live in the ways of truth, in the path and way of moral truth. And that's where you engage in wisdom. And so what I've just described as knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, that is the trivium method. And as a result, well, we can manifest true freedom and peace if we all engage in that, because we're going to care for right over wrong. We're going to care for moral truth, for moral law, and we're going to try to actualize a higher, realer, truer will to, and our higher, truer, realer potential of ourselves that we can become. And if you're not doing that, then you're still in more of an apathy for truth. So you're not as far on the spectrum, on the grade, on the scale of embodying a care for truth, for having that fire within you fueled and driving you, because that's what it is, the care for what we want to do and what we want to see happen and what we want to see created in the world, not only by ourselves but by other people. So if you don't care for truth, well, you're not really seeking truth, you're staying in ignorance, you're going to believe things, you're going to agree to things, and you're going to just stay with the status quo, the normality. You're not going to try to figure out how we can effectively change things. And you end up instead of instead of understanding, you'll end up in a misconception and confusion and being fooled by things because you're accepting falsity over truth. And as a result, you can end up acting foolishly in wrong action instead of the wisdom of right action. So the end result of true freedom and peace can't manifest because you believe in things that are not true, such as moral being immoral, or right is wrong, or wrong is right, and you don't have the proper objective, definitive understanding of the difference between right and wrong, and you're not aligning with what's right, and you're still aligned with what's wrong. So if you don't have true care, you go nowhere, essentially, because you're not going towards that optimum goal of the better world that we can create. So, you know, you can look at it as being stuck in a hamster wheel. If you don't have the true care, then we just end up creating the same thing over and over and over because we're not looking for a way out. And the way out is ending self-inflicted suffering, because that's what we're engaged in. Is the way the world is a result of our actions and the actions of others. And even if we remove ourselves from the methodologies and the actions that can create immorality and degrade our condition, other people are still doing it. So if we're not doing anything to try to get them to stop doing it, then we're participating in that self-inflicted suffering as an aggregate overall, where we're all co-creating the world through all of our actions together. None of us is a god of reality, a literal god, where we can just change whatever we want in reality. And so we have to cooperate and unite with others, come to agreements on how we want to live. And that's the goal of doing the external great work. First, you have the internal great work of working on yourself, the shadow work, letting go of evil, of falsity, of immorality, and changing your behavior. And then there's trying to get that understanding conveyed to other people so that they can engage in that process. And then we can eventually end our self-inflicted suffering, rather than being trapped in the problem and condition, and we go round and round, and we're never actually getting out of it, and we just create more of it. And I guess I could stop it there and just mention one last thing, where the more care you have, the care for truth is also, true care is related to the concept of agape. It's a Greek word to mean love. And in the Greek language, they have like 3 primary loves. There was eros, philos, and agape, and there were like 2 other ones. You can have like 5 or 6. I went into that in a presentation on truth is love, love is truth, but I forget what they are. And so the agape is where you expand who you identify as another and your care for others. So, you can care for yourself and your family, and then not care about what's happening in the outer world, and you're just focusing on yourself. And, as Mark Passio describes it, you wake up in the morning, and from the time you go to bed, you're just thinking about yourself and yours and what you can do to make you and yours better, your lives better. But when you have more care, then you're expanding your care for others to be free from harm. So you can go from, some people are purely selfish and they don't care about their family, but you can go from you to then your family, to then your community or your village, to then your country, and then the planet. And those are all human animal inclusions. But then you can also reach the level of care for others where you're including other species on the planet in that circle of identification and relation for freedom, and not creating harm for them. And I'll end it there.
Amazing, Chris. Thank you so much. Very brilliant.
How do you follow that? I don't think you can. Yeah, the only thing I can say to you, Chris, was that was a great explanation, and I fully understand what you're talking about. I'm going to come in on it from an angle of maybe some people that are listening may have not even come across the concept of what true care is. And the best way I can explain it is what led me to seek the truth. And that has come from, as I said before in previous ones, is having an awareness that there's something not quite right with the world, within and without. And that led me to seek knowledge of, basically, I was totally imbalanced with my emotions, like feeling, quite powerless in my emotions. And that led me to seek, and the best explanation I came across was the knowledge of how the right hemisphere works, like being the sacred feminine, and the left hemisphere, the sacred male, and how one can become dominant. And then I came to the realization that my sacred feminine side was completely out of balance, hence why I was stuck in my emotion. And even though I came across that understanding, I could take certain actions, obviously the left side of the brain being the sacred male, like putting in action instead of feeling like the victim. And that worked, but it still comes around. Like the more I go on, I find that I'm still, like up until this evening, I was expressing to the guys before we came live that I've got stuck in that emotion thing. But I think that's when it comes to the point where like you really do learn how that's when the shadow work has to come in, of why that feeling's there. And I'm sure other people, what I'm going to ask anyone that's listening that is stuck in their life in any way, there are answers out there if you seek the knowledge. There's lots of knowledge out there that will be in the links of how the brain and the emotions work, and that you do have power, and it does take it's hard work seeking the truth, and you will find battles along the way, but the only way forward is to face those difficulties that people might be going through in their lives. Because when you accept the things that are not quite right on the outside or the inside, that's when, if you accept it, that's when solutions start coming in. They do start coming in when you quieten yourself and accept it. A lot of people are frightened of the truth and they want to run away from it. But I'm going to advise people to, because I'm practicing what I preach as well, is to just accept how you're feeling and seek answers. There's plenty of literature and great knowledge out there to help get past those things. I'm rambling on. Next.
Can I just say quickly, welcome to Oscar. He had some technical issues, so he joined us a bit late, but hi, Oscar. And Oscar's in Sardinia, aren't you?
Yeah, thank you so much for letting me join, even though I came late. And the only reason I could come was because my mother cared enough about it to help me out with my problem. So thanks, Mom, for helping me. Yeah, I came in and I was hearing KRIS speak about true care, and I heard Ivan's take on it as well. What have I missed?
That was it.
That's about it. I gave him a very short little thing at the beginning. But yeah, it's open. The floor is open. Okay, I'm going to say something. Just to pick up on a couple of things that have come up. I mean, this thing of true care being, as I said, wanting to know. It means, and I think KRIS said something about, the truth can be pretty and the truth can be ugly. True care is wanting to look at the ugliness, saying, okay, something's wrong. I will look at it. And also, I think there's a sort of faith in, like, I can understand it. I am capable of understanding what is wrong, and I am capable of dealing with, being able to face it. I'm not the victim. Which I think is one was saying. It's like it really comes down to a kind of feeling in the heart. Of like, I am going to look at the ugliness. I am capable of dealing with it. I am capable of taking in the information. Capable of discerning it correctly, and bringing my agape, my universal love, my love for life, my love for this world, to bear on to work out this problem. That we were talking about last week. So yeah, I'll leave that there.
Yeah. No, Flora, go for it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks. No, I had to think about a presentation of Glenn Tram, and he talks about Kabbalah. And he talked about the point in your heart. You can have your whole life, you can work, and you can have a wife, maybe have kids, have sex, all those things, and it doesn't feel satisfying. And that's when the point in the heart is knocking at the door. The longing for truth, indeed. And the flame KRIS was talking about. But it's also a little bit paradoxical, I guess, because the principle of care is the principle where is our focus on, what is generating our creation. And of course it has to do with looking for truth inside of us, and the point in the heart looking for God. It comes also from this longing inside, a bigger desire, a longing for truth, for God. But this is the paradox, I guess, because we can't escape in this longing or in this looking for God, because we have to deal with reality as well. And reality is ugly and harsh, so it's both. We have to take all this to earth to make real life changes in this world, and we have to do it together. Maybe it's a little bit of a personal thing for me right now, because I noticed that I still somewhere in my mind try to escape reality, although I found out the truth and I see the collective state in the world. I didn't really realize that I have to do certain things to make a change. I have to learn to defend myself. I have to care enough about myself to value myself, to value my freedom, but also to take precautions and develop my masculine side so I can stand for myself and defend myself. So we also have to do it very down to earth. Sorry, I'm ranting a bit, but I have too much thoughts and I can't put it out coherent. So I give the word to someone else.
Yeah, no worries. I'll take it from here, I guess. So there's a lot of stuff that comes to mind with this whole thing, and I've gone over this for years, and I've put out some, sorry about the nose, musical projects and other works that, really tie into the heart of the matter, right? And, to tie in what, Nemo and Florum, what y'all are kind of talking about and alluding to is, especially stemming from our last episode, we were talking about diagnosing the problem, right? Well, we have to diagnose that with, 20/20 vision. We cannot, look at these things through rose-colored glasses. I kind of think of, imagine if, you had a horrific accident and you're by yourself and you need to look at some gory ass shit, like your flesh is exposed. You have a serious wound. But you can only do something. Imagine that. I'm sure you guys seen survival movies or something where, there's someone who had to build up the courage to sew their shit back together again or some whatever the hell. And it's just imagine the care it takes to actually want to survive first and foremost, and just protecting your own body, your own vessel, and all these things. And there's been quite the conundrum since the dawning of the Rona in recent times. We spoke pre-recording on bringing up some real-life examples, and this is a perfect one in regards to care and how the dynamic is played out in regards to people trying to hold on to authentic care in regards to, the self-defense principle and, upholding principles of just, you could even take it to layman's terms like, oh, whatever happened to my body, my choice, but y'all want to fold on some quaccination type of shit or that kind of stuff, that kind of stuff. And so there's, people that want to defend their own property, not have their own bodily property being violated upon, meaning any kind of mandates or any kind of laws, even jurisdictional and the whole fucking nine, prohibition. They're claiming a right over our bodies to whatever degree. And it's not any kind of misinterpretation or exaggeration. It's just the fucking facts. You just, you have to dissect it into degrees of, how much of the control through insidious ways are they kind of controlling our actions or limiting them through whatever legalese, terms and, laws and mandates, whatever the fuck. So with the dawning of the Rona in mind, with all the propaganda and all the psyops and psychological operations, people need to get out of their head like, conspiracy theory is automatically like a fucking psyop or whatever the fuck. People need to actually look into what the fuck a psychological operation means and maybe even like redefine the terms as we can do with care, the generare, which we could do in a second. But just to get the whole Rona shit out of the way, as an example of how there's been the false overlay of dark care that's been, propagandized and propagated and spread out through, the mainstream media, through the trickle-down effect and to the neighborhoods. And that's where you have the Karens and all that stuff, because they're operating off of their heartstrings being pulled through the mainstream, the lamestream media, and whatever the fuck they be feeding you and us, and those that can actually step aside and just be the objective observer, which is what doing proper diagnosis also entails, of not having your bias involved. And that's how we can come to the conclusion of the objective truth of said reality, situation, issue, right? So when the smoke cleared, was it really all that worth it to, be all up in people's faces and, be a fucking golem on, stocking up toilet paper and whatever the fuck due to a virus and all this stuff, and people policing people over, who's wearing a mask and all this stuff, and people making fucking death threats over, who isn't, immunized or whatever the fuck. That is the operations and actions and behaviors of dark care. And we're here to kind of flip the script in alignment with cosmic law, natural law, universal law, karmic law, as far as, what is actually truly fucking right and what doesn't, cause harm upon other people. Because who has suffered, wearing a fucking mask that has fiberglass and all this other shit, and, the toxins that are in all this other stuff, even the nasal swab shit, people had so much ample free time and they didn't do the proper research on these things. And I do salute the people that took the time to actually look in the mirror, research themselves, and actually dig deep, or to whatever degree with whatever shovel size, to look in the mirror, look inside themselves and find some proper genuine care about themselves, because a lot of people are so stuck on the rat race wheel, hamster wheel, whatever the fuck, where there's no time for that. People are so conditioned, they're so exhausted and exacerbated, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days out of the week, with their work schedules, and, being able to, make it to the couch to, you know, drown out the rest of the night to, you know, live another day, whatever the fuck, right? Whatever keeps people going, type of stuff. So in order to flip the script, we really need to dig deep down and understand what the word, you know, care means and entails, and, you know, what Chris Nelson meant in regards to how it ties into agape, that real, true, cosmic care, love, and the generative principle. What are we generating? Generare, you know, it's Latin, and we use it in French all the time. It's in so many words, you know, as far as, you know, the generations, what genre, you know, GEN, and then some, right? So, you know, I did a post on Facebook just to close it out of just, you know, with the whole internet stuff and thinking about, you know, 100 years down the line, what the fuck are people going to be looking back at us thinking about, you know, what were people doing? What were people caring about? These people were born in the age of the internet when it was first available, and they had the pioneers to, you know, express their feelings and this and that. What the fuck are we doing with that, people? You see how much fucking slag and sloth and sludge that's being pumped through the goddamn fucking media, whether it be even alternative media these days? You know, we're here to, you know, not just, you know, throw out and upload another fucking video like, hey guys, we're trying to get views and likes. No, we're trying to move minds and especially fucking hearts to generate that oscillating movement towards, you know, proper, true care, all fucking caps, whatever language y'all want to spell it in. That's all I got. Bonsoir, bonjour, all that good shit.
Yeah, good point, Derek. Good point for bringing up the difference between what is true care and what is dark care, because, yeah, maybe that's a question whoever's listening can ask if they've not considered that question before. What do you care about? What do you care about? Yeah, it's good.
Okay, I'll jump in if that's okay with everybody. True care, that's me just finding out about true care, because I didn't have a innate understanding of it until it was taught to me. I hear a lot of people talk about it in a very experiential way, and coming from their feelings, I suppose, but I didn't relate to that at all when I had to get taught about it. And it was a massive moment for me. It actually was the first big moment of me getting moved into some shadow work. Because when it was explained to me as what I cared about was responsible for the results of my actions, it taught me that it was also responsible for any negative outcomes or the opposite in my life. So it's really important to understand. It's like Chris said, it's basically the intention that you hold when you take the action that you do. So it's the intention in your heart, basically. This is, we were talking at the start, before we came on the stream, about, well, I was anyway, how I found it hard to describe it. And it was brought up that, you know, it's a heart-based thing, it's not a brain-based thing. And I think that's maybe why I struggled with it, to actually break it down. But it was a big moment for me. It flung me into some shadow work. It explained why I was bringing suffering into my life. Because I didn't know about it. That's the truth. I didn't know anything about it. I was like the rest of the unaware masses who had their care hijacked by the mind control that goes on within society. You know, I was just going along with the flow, caring about what was socially expected to care about, caring about having a job, caring about having money, caring about, somebody mentioned that me attitude. I was like that. It was like, and it's hard to admit that now. It was all about, not in a really bad way, but at the end of the day, it was about how am I going to get the next good thing in my life. And yeah, that it really made me look at myself and what I cared about. And then that coupled with how true care on an aggregate scale is creating the circumstances that resulted in me getting dragged along with my care hijacked in the first place, because that was happening to absolutely everybody. Well, not everybody, there's a few of us that have now discovered it, but almost everybody, that's the case. Everybody that I know, that's the case. People even tell me that straight out. I've had a friend, I've got a friend, who one of his favourite sayings was, "You've got to look out for number one, only you can look out for you." And he would say it all the time, like it was some sort of highfalutin wisdom, you know. That was the problem. You know, that is the problem. Everybody's like that. And then to bring up the agape thing, care and love are really, really entwined to each other, because it's when you understand that we're all one, we're all connected, and it's because we're all connected that we do through our actions create the world that we live in, is when that understanding of agape love really hits hard. And it was the knowledge of that made me change, or start to change. Nobody's perfect here, it's a work in process for everybody. Really changed the way I was approaching the output of my actions into the world. I'm drying up on it a little bit, guys. I hope you're getting what I'm trying to say. And it's what's made me do this, because I realise that most people don't understand that their care has been hijacked, and they don't understand the impact of it on an aggregate scale. They don't understand that they're all co-creating this kind of hellish world that we're living in right now. It was big knowledge for me, and I had to be taught it. I know a lot of people kind of get it naturally and they feel it within. And I was noticing some of the responses in the chat were like that, and I was reading them going, I don't relate to that. I had to be told. It was like I had to be told. I had to be sat down by Mark Passio and said, this is what this is, and this is why it's important in your life, and this is why it's important in everybody's life. This is why it's important. This is why it's important for the whole human race. And I was like, right. So it became a practical thing for me then. So that's the reason why, that knowledge that I now know is why I'm going to try and change what I care, what I care about. That's the wrong term. How I'm going to change how I generate the care in my life to sort of focus on that agape side of things, because I know the importance of it. And it's something I have to work on, because I very easily will slip back into me. I've got to keep my eye on the ball. I've got to watch myself at all times, you know. I'll leave it at that, guys. I'll let somebody else come in.
I could just say quickly, just about this kind of the oneness thing. You know, that brings in. You know, it's one thing to say, oh, everything is one. You know, we're all one, and it's another thing to say, therefore, I am responsible. You know, and that's really where true care comes in. I think it's like, I actually am responsible for everything. You know. And I have this phrase that I've used before in something I'm writing. That's it sounds really extreme. It feels a really extreme thing to say, but when I came up with it, I was like, I love that. And it's the only thing wrong with the universe is my lack of action based on true care. And that rings true to me. It's like, well, then that gives me total responsibility for everything. You know, but not just that, it also tells me what I need to do about it. You know? I just pass it on. So there's a couple of people that haven't spoken. So Anna or Oscar, if you want to jump in.
I guess I could try. I think I've been thinking a lot about all of the things that have been said and tried to figure out like a way I would talk about true care. I think I maybe want to try to see if I could tell a story in some way, but I go to school now, and I do have the experience of seeing like a lot of people struggling to get grades or like working really hard and doing their homework and different things. And when you go to school, you get into this sort of culture where it's like you just got to work hard if you want to get to some place, or if you don't work hard, you don't get the same opportunities. And somehow I thought about that. I don't see, like, I feel like it doesn't really express the true care to oneself. If you go into this, like, I don't know if someone said rat race or hamster wheel, or I would call it like struggle culture, hustle culture in some way. That you just gotta keep fighting, like climbing the ladder and see if you can get on top. And I also sometimes thought to myself that, like, because I go to school, I am quite often surrounded by people who is like either striving or what is called, because of this system, start to think they are not good enough. And they allow the system in that way to, what is called, to judge them in some way. And therefore they are not really also in another way making this true care for themselves. So I really sometimes try to think, like, I really love to learn and to learn different things. I told before that I'm learning biology and chemistry right now. And I think it's really great, but I don't either want to go into this rat race where it's like, oh, I gotta get the best grades or whatever. Because I also always realize, like, the people that might not get good grades or get good grades, it doesn't really judge their intelligence. And I think also it's very refreshing somehow to see someone possibly truly care for themselves. But I thought about the reason I think I brought the school thing up was because if you're surrounded by a culture that is making you not truly care for yourself and therefore caring for others, because this school place is very much, I'm focusing on myself so I get my good grades so I can get somewhere after this place. It's not really like a healthy environment, but it's also something I guess we stay in. We are all in this fight lonely for ourselves to get somewhere after that and after that, you know, and then we get into work and then we get into different positions. But if you never see true care around you, if you never experience this, it's like it's invisible. It's like it's non-existent. It's like you're not even supposed to truly care for yourself, if that makes sense. I've many times had that thought because I feel like it's not really teaching you that you're supposed to truly care for yourself, even though it would be the most healthy for you. They say you should get good grades, you should do these things, you should do these things, and there's a tight schedule. But none of this is showing that you should also put the brakes on when you need it, or, you know, do something different that would nourish your soul, or like taking a walk or something. It doesn't really teach you those things. It only teaches you to not truly care in a way. I guess I don't know how to follow up that, but that's all I've been thinking about in this time. While you guys also been talking, like I was like, maybe I could say this, yeah, this.
So it's really bringing home to you then, Anna, that the system as it is doesn't allow for true care.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to say, isn't it? It doesn't allow for it. Yeah. I know that it actually it portrays itself as caring, but it only cares for the symptoms you're left with through not care. Like lots of counselling, lots of psychology, lots of they offer that. But it would be great, wouldn't it, Anna, if we were brought up with that true care in the first place. That's probably the most important education, is it not?
But I also thought, again, like, if you haven't been taught this from home, you cannot bring it into you, of course, with this environment, because you don't know of it. Mm-hmm. And if nobody's showing it to you, you're like, this is how it's supposed to be. You know, I'm supposed to beat myself up to get the good grades or get the stronger in this way. And I've thought about this. That's why I also thought this subject is very interesting, because I feel like I haven't experienced a lot of true care, and then later on, someone have stopped me up and being like, "This is wrong. You should do something different," or like kind of showing me really like true care and being like, "Do this instead." I don't like. I had a job in a bar when I was 18. And I probably looked very miserable. I was very tired, probably 4 o'clock in the morning. And my roomie, who normally don't talk to anybody, he was there. Or it was a random house where we were random people living together. And him and his friend, they stopped me up and they were saying to me, "You really don't look happy. I think you should quit." And it was just a nice moment, because normally we didn't talk so close, or there was some kind of intimacy that suddenly came from this guy, and probably I never had it with him again. But at that moment, he showed this true care, and he made me realize, you're right. I'm breaking in this job right now. This is ruining me physically because I need to stay up so late. And that made me quit the job. But if I haven't learned to show true care for myself yet, it's really hard to know, can I actually do that? Can I actually allow myself to quit? Am I not supposed to do like everyone else does? Just work my ass off, because that's the story that is being told, that I should work my ass off so I can deserve to have a break at some point.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's the story. Now I finished my rant.
I think it's lovely that you say so, because I wrote something, the last part you said about your roommate mirroring you, that truth that made you quit your job. Because true care also made me think about the Joker archetype, because he's like the archetype of not caring. And in this world we live, it's easier not to care, because caring also means getting hurt, because it's not a good condition right now if we are looking at ourselves, but also at the world or at our loved ones. We are all in a condition that's very grave if we are very honest. And we have to do a lot of hard work to find truth and to get that truth out in the world. And it also made me think about a book I was reading about the vampire archetype. Very interesting. It's a Jungian psychology book from a Jungian analyst, but she also said something about we don't get a lot of mirroring from very nurturing care, or this self-love with capital S, this self-energy that's not judgmental but can see truth, and without it's because when we do this inner work, it's also very hard work, and we need this embodiment from this self-energy. And it helps when other people in the world can mirror us this energy. And when we look at that movie Joker, it's also gray, and no one ever saw him. No one ever looked at him and saw him. So not that it's an excuse for him to be that way, but we create the world with each other. And it's sad that we don't really see each other, and that we keep each other's illusions alive instead of mirroring each other this truth, like you said, Anna Maria, your roomie did. Yeah. We could, and that's why it's agape, I guess, because it's not easy, because all our social conversations are based on keeping our illusions alive, and people get angry when you tell them the truth. So it's also an art, I guess, to learn to do that in a non-judgmental way, caring way.
If it's possible.
If it's possible, yeah.
See that term hassle culture you used, Anna? I mean, that's kind of made me think it's really difficult in the culture that we live, because I talked about having their care hijacked, And so there's a lot of negativity around you, and there's a lot of, I find at times, a lot of aggression surrounding me in society, and it's kind of it closes in on you. You know, people are conditioned just to be reactive all the time. So if you're trying to show true care and it's hitting a nerve with them, it becomes harder because their conditioned reaction is to have a go at you. You know, and I struggle with that. It's hard to not mirror that. I have to really, when I talk about I have to keep an eye on it, that's where I can just fall right back into being aggressive right back again. You know, it's a bit of a struggle, but I like the term hassle culture. That kind of sums it up quite well.
And that's kind of dealing with that dark care, that adversity. Sorry, that we gotta deal with people that are been kind of programmed, conditioned, mind controlled, brainwashed, if you will. It's funny with the brainwashing of how, if you're washing something, normally it's supposed to be clean, right? What are they washing with? Fluoridated, whatever the hell. Anyways, just to reel it back into like that true care. And Oscar, I don't want to take up your turn or whatever, but as far as like cultivating that care, which for me, speaking from experience, that led on to my full-blown frequency shift alchemical awakening, where I had a lot of care for myself. I realized my health was not that great. My whole mental state wasn't the best. I wasn't treating my wife as best as I could, and noticed there was like some bullshit projections, and I wasn't familiar with the term shadow work, but that's kind of what I was addressing at the time. And there was just things that I had inklings towards, but still ignorant to, and all this stuff, and not trying to operate from those things. And so I felt like I was living in a limited life, and I was having some kind of repetitive negative cycles and maybe some self-inflicted suffering in the mix and all this stuff. And I really wanted to break the chains. And so there was like a fire, that eternal flame just got sparked, and it just led on to that, truth-seeking journey that eventually, had that heart explosion where, I had my crown chakra ringing for fucking months on end. And it just took me on this path where I need to, spread the word and, let folks know like what is going on to whatever degree, even if it was through the medium of, mixing music at the time. I didn't have, the proper rhetoric and articulation of that to, voice the ineffable, if you will, which, can get more deciphered better over time. But anyways, not to ramble on, but Oscar, what's good, brother man?
Hey everybody. I'm a bit emotional over here. I think this topic is really, I really appreciate that we're speaking about this topic, because it's one thing is that it's a huge topic. Like there's so many, like there's infinite contexts of looking at how care, where you can apply that. It's like this. It's really at the center, as KRIS was starting out by saying that, like the suffering that we're experiencing in our lives and in our world, it actually is generated by our care, by our values, and that's not only like suffering, it's also all the beauty and the awesomeness, like the care that's, my mother helped me out, connecting with it, and I got to hear your takes on these topics, the care that was put into the people showing up here, and the initiative that was taken. If you also look at this word generation, that we're all part of a generation, and someone literally loved enough to create us, and we're that creation, we're that generation, and they are in themselves a generation. So there's just this love everywhere. We're all this love, but we're not always beautiful love. Sometimes we're really like painful love, and I think maybe that's why I'm a bit emotional, because I feel like really open. And I just saw this meme today where it's like two caskets. There's two caskets, and one casket is just saying, "I feel dead inside," and then the other casket is like, "Hey, you should open up," and the casket opens up, and just like a corpse falls out of the casket. And then the other casket is like, "How do you feel now?" Like, much better, much better. And I mean, I guess, yeah, that kind of hit home for me, because I feel like we do have these corpses in as a metaphor for, like, we have these dead values. We care about things that are not beautiful or real or natural or true, and just creates this feeling of heaviness that might be unnecessary. And that's not to say that feeling sad or depressed or angry cannot be like a very appropriate response, emotional response to events taking place or thoughts that one has. Like, if I have a grateful thought and I feel that emotion, I would say that's like, if I feel grateful for example, that my mother right now, she's making food for me, I mean, that just makes me feel loved, and I think that's an appropriate response to have. I hope it's okay that I rant a bit, because I actually do want to share some thoughts, even though I always try to tell myself I'll be the quiet, chill guy, you know, I won't say anything, but inside of me there's just like explosions and fireworks. I'll show you a drawing my mom made that I think is really beautiful, that was hanging in my room. You have this lady that she has a seed that is a seedling that is growing, and I think that's a cool way to look at our own, as you were saying, Yvonne, like this idea that I'll show it while I say this point, because this idea that we can seek knowledge, that we can find out what's really happening. There's this concept called the truth seed method, which is about how do we learn about reality, like that within every individual, when we're born, there's this seed, this truth seed, that if we nourish it and we cultivate it and we water it and grow it, it can become this tree of wisdom. And I think that's such a beautiful way of looking at care, is seeing like we all have a heart, we all have love within us. We're all born with care. But what is it that we care about? And also one thing that I've been met often with is this idea that you can only care about one thing. Like, you only care about this, or like, you only care about that, or like, I only care about this. I don't care about anything else than this. And one of the epiphanies I've had in my life is that doesn't have to be the case. And in fact, I find it highly doubtful that I only care about one thing. But of course, I think there's a truth that is being implied, which is that we mainly care about one thing. Maybe we might put like our value system might revolve around one core aspect of reality. And I think that's cool. That's all right. But me caring about freedom, I tell myself I care about freedom. I think that's true. I do care about not being enslaved, and that condition for not only myself but for all beings, to reference that to the agape love that was spoken about earlier. That doesn't mean that I care about freedom, that I don't care about anything else. And if I say to myself, I care about truth, I have true care, I care about truth, and that's the thing I care most about, I prioritize, does that mean I don't care about anything else? No, I would say that there's like a hierarchy, like there's a prioritize. Like, I think there's so much power in care that we've kind of hinted at, that really is a generative, like what we care about is then what we go out and do. Like, everything is as it is because of what we care about. Like, we exist because our parents cared enough to create us, and so on. Everything is as, like this computer that I'm speaking through, the care has been put in to create that. So care is everywhere. And there's so much power in that, but there's also power in reevaluating. What is it really, like finding out, of course, what is it that I care about is one thing, because I like telling myself that I care about truth and freedom, but I do also care about things that are not that spiritual, if you will, like like, it's easy for me to say I care about those things because those sound good, but to say that I care about my comfort, or that I care about like I have selfish, egoic desires, that's not so nice. So there's so much power in reevaluating, is the point I'm kind of get through. Like, how much do I want to care about this, and how much do I want to care about the quality of the water that I drink? Is that something that I care about, my own health? I think that's one aspect where care comes into to play, is healing. And like, how interesting is it also that the people who, because this was said earlier, that this society, we have its narrative that says this society cares about you. Like, there's so many institutions, they care about you, or this thing about you. And how interesting is it that the people who allegedly care about us, like our health, care about our health and should help us heal, which are not doing that. If you look at the reality, so many people are sick and not whole, or not healed. How interesting is it that these people themselves, they have not healed. So they'll give drugs, but they're themselves on drugs. Like, not to say the drugs are bad, but like, they're cures. They're not true healing. They're not actually engaging you in that healing process, engaging your care. And I know I'm ranting a lot, so I'll try to finish up here. I think that idea of the truth seed method is a beautiful thing to remember, that within us all there's this seed that we can cultivate and grow. And as you were saying, Flora, that it can be kind of uncomfortable to realize I actually have not, like, there's skills I have to develop, I still have to grow, and to care enough to admit one's false, or like one's like wrong condition, or like undeveloped condition, be like, to dare to have the courage to be in that unknown, and to say, whoa, I'm just a little seed that's trying to become a tree, I think there's also power in that, a small seed, that just says, okay, I'm just a little seed, but now I'm gonna explode and be in that condition of like, wah, and actually grow into a beautiful tree of wisdom. I think it's such a big topic, so I should probably try to.
Oscar, can you hold up your picture again? Can you hold up your picture? Because I just think I nailed true care by looking at your mum's picture. So, see the little seed there that you're talking about? True care to me is, if there's anything in your mind, heart, soul that's preventing you from taking that action and nurturing that seed, then true care is to seek and ask yourself, what's preventing you from growing that lovely seed there? That's true care, when you start asking those questions. Because if there's anything that's preventing you in your life nurturing and growing, then find out the truth. What is preventing that? And that might not be very nice, what comes up in you or what you see on the outside, but that's the truth. And then, and only then, can you put the true care in once you've faced the negative, if you want to call it that, to make the change.
Nice.
Love that. Yeah. Thank you, Yvonne.
I was just going to drop in. We passed the hour mark, so we can have like short last thoughts. And here's mine. I wanted to give this Adyashanti quote, which probably most of you know, which just really addresses, because I think what we're really talking about, one way of looking at it is enlightenment. We're looking at, how do we manifest our best selves? How do we learn what's true? How do we see reality as it really is? And so this quote about enlightenment by Adyashanti says, "Enlightenment is a destructive process, the crumbling away of untruth." Sorry, just disappeared. Seeing through the facade of pretense, the complete eradication of everything we imagine to be true. So it can be a very, very painful process to enlighten yourself and to enlighten others. It's not always going to be fun. And then I just wanted to touch on as well apathy, which KRIS mentioned at the beginning. There's in a way you could say there's two opposites to care. Well, there's dark care, which maybe I think we're probably going to move and talk something about that next week. I think. But there's also what you could call just the opposite of care, the lack of care, apathy, no conscience, just not caring, not wanting to know the truth. And we see this all around us. People just absolutely under the, in the realm of like just such a small sense of just surviving, just getting through the day, getting through the life, this kind of tunnel vision. Not wanting to know the big picture, just being like, oh no, it's too scary or it's too much for me. I'm not capable of handling it or whatever. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on those couple of things. And then any last closing thoughts? And we're quite far past the hour, so keep them brief.
I'll
just mention.
Sorry, KRIS.
I was going to just mention a quick thing. So if you look at related to care and apathy. You can move care. Apathy to the middle, and you can put dark care over here. Well, the opposite for you guys. Whatever. So you have the positive, which is the true care, and you have the negative, which is the dark care, and in the middle is zero. So you can look at it in a mathematical perspective as a +1, -1, and the variations in between. And when you have neither, well, you have zero, and that's the apathy.
Yeah, that's the right way of looking at it. Yeah, definitely.
And how would you describe dark care, KRIS, if you have these?
Well, dark care is, so when we look at true care, was the care to do things related to what's true, and the most important is the moral truth. Well, the dark care is since it's the opposite of that, it's that your care is to fulfill ends, goals, and your aims and your purpose and your meaning in life is revolving around the immoral, the evil, creating chaos. And so that's the counter to the true care, which is the goal of living morally and doing good and creating order. And you can look at that as two opposites of the involutionary force, entropy, versus the syntropic force or evolution.
I would love for us to go into the topic of manipulated care and like by others when it's not ourselves reprioritizing and reevaluating what we care about, but others taking advantage of our unconsciousness and making us manipulating our care. Also, this what was spoken of here, like how there can actually be that intent of manipulation, of creating chaos.
Yeah, it's going to be for the next episode. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be something super cool.
On right now. Yeah.
No.
Keep it on that positive care, man. What you got? Because yeah, dude, I cried like over a dozen times before even recording this. You know, I did a live stream on my video hip hop mix, and really gets into the thick of things of, you know, like what really fucking matters to you in the end. You know, like imagine the people that are suffering, that have like drowned. There's like countless bodies, you know, flooded in where's it, North Carolina and all this stuff these days with the hurricane and all that, and in Gaza and all these other places. Like, so we could take a more streetwise spiritual step towards, you know, like, all right, so these may not affect us, but, you know, how is this affecting us in the aggregate, and how much, you know, apathy is just being, you know, drug along the way and ignored, you know, with all the suffering along with it. And it's just like these negative feedback loops that keep happening. Where's the true authentic care to generate some really positive change and break the chains of, you know, this draconian bullshit. Anyways, that's all I got to say. Next.
Okay, anyone else, or shall I close it up? Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, and thanks for listening. And yeah, well, it is true care, I believe, that's brought us here together to talk about this. But the algorithm doesn't care. So you can help it to understand what's really important by clicking all the buttons, sharing, liking, subscribing, you know, all of that stuff. So please do that, because I think what we're doing here is pretty cool, and it's worth, you know, getting out there, spreading around, and I hope you do too. So the other thing I'd like to say is thank you to all the people, which I haven't really said before, but there are people that aren't, you know, here. Well, there's all the people that aren't here this week, but there's also people behind the scenes doing stuff, and big thanks to them as well for helping us to get this all together. It's been a real amazing collective effort that has kind of happened quite magically, I would say. So everyone's, if the people that are here if they have other content, which many of us do, the links for that are all in the description below. And also the Telegram group which actually connected us all together. You're welcome to join that. Link over there. And you can join in the discussion there. We've had lots of really great, pretty deep discussion there this week. In fact, I've had trouble keeping up with it. I might have to go back and see what I've missed. And we'll be back next week, probably to talk about dark care, I imagine, or something around that theme. So I hope you'll join us then. But for now, thanks everyone. And I'm Nemo Jones, reporting for Beauty. And I'll see you next time. And we'll all see you next time on Europa Natural Law.
Take care.
Cheers.